Hello there, welcome back to another Storytime session with me, Duncan Beedie, and today we're going to be looking at a book that features two things, pigeons and chips. So if you don't like either of those two things, you might not like today's story, but if you do, you're in for a treat. So, I'd like to introduce you to a little friend. This pigeon here is called Percy, and as you can see, he likes chips. He's got one stuck to his foot there, and he is, I'll just plonk him there, the star of today's book, The Last Chip, and that is Percy the Pigeon there. And this is all about a very hungry little pigeon who goes scurrying around the town looking for something to eat. Now, if you've ever seen pigeons when you're out and about, they're always sort of pecking around by your feet, especially for eating a sandwich, looking for crumbs or anything that comes tumbling down. They always seem to be hungry, and they always seem to be looking out for scraps to fill their tummies. So this book is all about a little pigeon who's very hungry and goes in search of some food. And like I said, if you like chips, you like this book, because the opening page features lots and lots of chips, as you can see. And one thing else that I want to point out, another thing, that this book is dedicated to someone very important. It's dedicated to my nan, because when this book came out a couple of years ago, there's a picture of her there. You can see, she turned 100 years old, and the publication of the book sort of coincided with her 100th birthday. So I thought it'd be nice to dedicate it to her. And also, she loves pigeons, and she and my granddad used to keep pigeons down their garden in a pigeon loft. They used to have racing pigeons, and also my nan used to love cooking dinners. In particular, she loved cooking fish and chips, so she would approve of you having chips for tea tonight. So if you read this book and get hungry later, I think you've earned a nice plate of chips for your dinner, so you can tell your parents you want chips for dinner. Okay, let's start the story. Oh, again, glasses, always forget. Right. Life on the streets was tough for Percy the Pigeon. He was always hungry. Every morning he trotted to the railway station and waited patiently for the first train to arrive. If he was lucky, he might catch a crumb or two as the commuters hurried on their way to work. So here you can see it's very, very early in the morning. The sun is only just coming up. And this is the entrance to the railway station that might be familiar to anybody who lives in the town where I'm from, which is Bristol, because this station is basically Bristol Temple Meads. So that's what I based it on. The only trouble was, today, Percy wasn't alone. A gang of greedy pigeons had the same idea. Percy was so small that when the crumbs came tumbling down, he was buffeted out of the way. And here we can see this gang of pigeons, this unruly mob. They look like sort of tough guys that aren't going to take any nonsense. And they're certainly not going to let a little scrawny pigeon like Percy take any of their food. And here, look, as they're fighting over the crumbs, biff, oof, poor Percy gets knocked flying out of the way. He's not going to get any breakfast there. "Shove off, that's mine," snarled a gruff pigeon with stumpy toes as he swallowed the last scrap of food. So there goes a big biker pigeon eating the very last crumb. Poor Percy. It's left for nothing. Percy's tummy rumbled. "What am I going to eat now?" he thought. I know. It was a very long way to fly, but Percy had heard that at the park, people actually threw seed in the pond for the birds to eat. So here he's daydreaming of this wonderful park with a pond and a little lady throwing crumbs for the birds. He thinks, he's sure to get some food if he goes there. So, flapping his little wings as fast as he could, Percy fluttered high above the city rooftops. So here you can see he's leaving the station, and off he goes over the houses towards the park in the distance. Will he have more luck at the park? Let's find out. When Percy finally landed in the park, he was hungrier than ever. The only trouble was, he wasn't alone. The pond was full of greedy ducks, gobbling up all the seeds. But Percy bravely waded in anyway. So here we can see there are people feeding the birds and it all looks very nice. But these ducks here sort of own the rights to the pond and they don't want Percy barging in. And there goes Percy into the water. Now, I've never seen a pigeon swim. I don't think they're particularly good at it, so he's taking quite a risk there. "Quack! Get out of our pond, you scoundrel!" bawled the ducks, thrashing at him with their wings. Percy scrambled back to the bank and shook the water from his feathers. And here we can see the ducks, very posh ducks. Look, these guys have got champagne and all sorts in their picnic hamper. They don't want to share it with Percy, so they make him leave. And as he gets out of the water, he shakes himself dry. If any of you got a dog that's ever got wet in a pond or anything, you know when they shake themselves, they sometimes go a bit fluffy. And that's what Percy does there. "I'm so hungry," he gasped. "I must find something to eat." Then he had an idea. He had heard that there were lots of tasty scraps to be had at the seaside. So Percy flapped his little wings faster than ever, and before long he was flying over a beautiful sandy beach. Wow, now here we can see he's arrived at the seaside. It's a beautiful sunny day, and we have lots of things to choose from in terms of food. There's a fish and chip stand, a burger stall, candy floss, ice cream, donuts. Surely Percy is going to get something yummy to eat out of all that lot. Percy was so excited, he forgot to look where he was going. Before he knew it, he crash landed and went whooshing and whirling down to the very bottom of a helter-skelter. So here you can see he's crashed at the top and he's gone all the way down and he's landed on his face with a splat. Not very dignified. But what's he found? Percy couldn't believe it. There, right in front of his beak, was a scrumptious piece of fish. "At last!" he cried, jittery with delight. The only trouble was, we can see there's a big shadow looming over Percy here. I wonder who that shadow belongs to. Percy wasn't alone. "Arr!" roared a giant seagull. "There be no pickings for land-lubbing vermin like thee." Percy's little legs trembled as the terrifying pirate gull stomped on the piece of fish. Then he grabbed Percy, slam-dunked him into the nearest rubbish bin and scoffed the whole lot for himself. And there we can see the nasty mean pirate seagull just grabs Percy and throws him into the bin. Bit mean. "It's no good," sobbed Percy as he peeked out from the bin. "I'll never get anything to eat." And he set off on the long journey back home. There he is, peeking out from the bin, and he's got a banana skin on top of his head. Oh, he's not had a very good day, has he? By now, Percy was so weak with hunger he could scarcely manage to flap his little wings at all. And soon he was swearing and swerving and dipping above the city skyline. He wasn't swearing. Percy's a good little pigeon. If I'd had the sort of day Percy had had, I might be swearing, but he wouldn't. It's different. I'm not going to do it again because it takes too long to do these videos. So I'm reading it from a bit of an angle as well. That's my excuse. He was swerving and dipping above the city skyline before plummeting to the streets below. And here he goes, down to the pavement below. He landed on the pavement with a thwump. Oh, it's been a long decade, actually. And I'm recording this from the midst of the coronavirus lockdown, so if I'm a bit all over the place, that's why. But yeah, there we go. We'll carry on with the story. Ignored by the commuters rushing home for their dinners, Percy prepared himself for another hungry night ahead. Then he heard a gentle voice. Here he is, sitting by some cardboard boxes, and you see all the feet of the people stampeding past as they go about their business. Poor Percy is being ignored. "Excuse me, you look hungry. Would you like my last chip?" "For me?" cried Percy. "Thank you." Quivering with excitement, Percy pecked away, savouring every delicious beakful. A tingling warmth spread through his body. Here we can see he's got this massive chip. Well, it's massive compared to him because he's tiny. And he's munching and munching away at it. And finally he's full and very content. Tired and very full, Percy nestled up next to his new friend. And for once, the streets didn't feel quite so tough. And there you can see, here's the kind lady that offered Percy her last chip. She obviously felt very sorry for him because she knows what it's like to feel a bit hungry and lonely herself. So she empathised with him and was kind enough to share her last chip. And that is the end of the story. So I hope you enjoyed it. And maybe it made you hungry yourself. So if you did, you can always badger your parents and ask for chips for tea. I'm sure they'll agree. Hello and welcome back, or welcome to, if this is your first visit, to another drawing session with me, Duncan Beedie. And today I'll be showing you how to draw Percy the Pigeon, the main protagonist from my third book, The Last Chip. So, Percy the Pigeon, as the description would suggest, is in fact a pigeon, and he's a little vulnerable character, and in the story he goes off around the city looking for little scraps to eat because he's very, very hungry. But every time he thinks he's just about to get some food, something or someone will get in his way and make life very difficult for him. But we don't want to be drawing a sad, miserable looking pigeon. I think we'll do a happy pigeon today. So I'll show you how to draw a very happy Percy the Pigeon. Perhaps he's celebrating because he's just found a nice big pile of chips. So we'll start with his head. Now Percy's body shape, he has a sort of dome-shaped head with little tufty feathers on top. So we'll do a curved line, 3 little bumps for the tufty feathers, then another curved line down here, and we'll stop about there. Now we'll start with his face. So the eyes, I suppose, we'll do those first. Again, like all my other characters, eyes are basically 2 circles with dots in the middle, with eyebrows that are rectangles. We'll do them pointing up because he's surprised or delighted that he's found some food. And I always make the eyebrows stripy. So basically, whether it's the bear who stared, the lumberjack, Percy, Molly the moth, all the eyes on my characters look the same. But the other parts of him will look different. So now we're going to start with his beak. That would be in between his eyes. Now basically, it's just a triangle. And if you look at pigeons close up, if you ever get the chance, they have a sort of bump on the top of their beak. Budgies have it too. Not really sure what it is. I'm sure a pigeon expert could tell you. But that's what their beak looks like anyway. It looks a bit like an ice cream. And interestingly, the other day when we were doing the bear from The Bear Who Stared, I don't know if you remember, I said that his nose, the bridge of his nose, and his nose looks like an upside down ice cream. So this is an ice cream that's the right way up. Next we're going to do a sort of bumpy line, which is Percy's neckline for his feathers. So these bumps go round the bottom of his head and eventually join up those 2 lines. So that's his head, and now we'll do his body. We'll start with his wings. He's going to be happy, so let's do them waving up in the air like he's jumping for joy or celebrating the fact that he's found some chips or something. So they're 2 lines with a sort of zigzaggy line to denote the feathers, and they curve like that because he's waving up in the air. And now the sides of his body, 2 straight lines that come down like that. And on one side we're going to have his tail feathers. So we'll have, again, a zigzag line, 3 little spikes if you like. Those are the sort of the tail feathers that stick out from his bum. And then a flat line across the bottom, join that up, and that's his body. Now he does have a sort of tummy pattern, so we're going to do a big arc sort of arch-shaped line there. And we'll put some little dashes in, because he has a fluffy tummy. A tummy that likes to get filled with chips whenever he can find them. And lastly, we're going to do his feet. So we start with 2 lines coming down for his shin, if you like, his leg. And then 3 bumps, like that. 3 sort of long sausage-shaped bumps for his toes. Now, Percy's a lucky pigeon, he has all of his toes. If you see pigeons, especially around railway stations or in town centres, a lot of them don't have all their toes, and I've always wondered why that is. I'm not really sure why. Poor things must get so hungry they decide to eat them. That'd be a bit gross, wouldn't it? I'm going to put some little stripes in his feet as well. So there we have a Percy the Pigeon who's looking happy and he's celebrating. Perhaps he could be celebrating. Maybe we'll draw a big chip in the bottom here. And he's thought, yummy, yummy, I'm going to have that for my tea. So a nice chip there. So there is a very happy Percy the Pigeon. I hope you enjoy drawing it, having a go drawing it. Again, if I went a bit too fast for you, don't worry, feel free to pause the video or rewind the video or however you want to do it. And maybe, if you like, you don't have to draw him standing by a chip. He could be standing by a hot dog or a pizza or whatever your favourite food might be. It might be broccoli or asparagus. You might be very health conscious, unlike me. So whatever you fancy, why don't you draw Percy jumping up and down for joy because he's found something yummy to eat. So thanks for watching, and I'll be back again soon with some more drawing videos and some more story time videos as well. In the meantime, I meant to say in the meantime, bye bye.